Hey dudes, welcome to Splat from the Past, the only 80s themed horror and sci-fi show where things can get totally radical. Now today I will be welcoming a horror hostess from New York. For years she was just one of the hosts, now she's the head host of the horror show. Constance Caldwell, but you know her as Zelda on Offbeat Cinema, the New York-based horror show with the three beatniks. And I'm having her on the show today to talk about it, talk about, the natural evolution of the show, her favorite horror and sci-fi movies, and all that stuff. And it's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait. It's going to be a lot of interesting intellectualism about horror and sci-fi, which all you out there who listen to this know that's my specialty. So yeah, here is my interview with Constance Caldwell. Hi Constance, welcome to the show. How are you?
Oh, I'm great. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. It's such an honor. Thank you for taking the time this morning.
Thank you.
So, did you fall in love with horror and sci-fi movies early on?
Not really. Although I do have the nostalgia element to it. When we first started doing Offbeat Cinema, of course I remembered, as a kid watching features of sorts and them scaring scaring me. As a kid and barely really watching them because I was under the covers. But I've always enjoyed movies, of course, and when I got involved with Offbeat Cinema, I was very much intrigued by the horror genre, but I have to say that it gradually grew on me. We show more than just horror.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you show all different types of genres and stuff.
Yes. Uh-huh.
But do you remember the first horror or sci-fi movie you saw as a kid?
Oh, gee. I can't say I do because I'm sure I would have to really go back to It Came from Outer Space. These were already reruns that were done as pretty much wraparounds, is like what we do with a host, wrapping around a late night host talking about the film and, having contests for the viewers. Here we had a guy that was called, his show was called Cat's Pajamas, and Barry Lillis was the host. And he showed not only horror, but sometimes horror. And then he would have people dial in if they wanted to win a sub from our local sub shop, Mike's Sub, the sandwich.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm trying to think now, and it'll probably come clear to me after this podcast what it might have been. But, anything that had giants in it, like giant spiders, giant spider webs, quicksand, I always thought as a kid that was something that was just ubiquitous in the world. It turns out I've never seen quicksand.
Wow.
Movies. So I couldn't name a title, but Creature from Outer Space is probably what I would call the generic title, A Creature from Outer Space.
Do you know what your favorites are?
Of what we show on Offbeat Cinema?
Yeah, or just in general of the genre.
Oh, of the horror genre.
Yeah.
I do have an affinity for the very old school, kind of cheesy classics.
Mm-hmm.
Do like, although I couldn't tell you who starred in them because it's usually no household names. But my husband and I will sit and watch many 50s, 60s, just really fun movies. We call them fun movies. With, but I couldn't say that I had particular favorite in the horror genre, because I don't really, outside of what we show at Off the Cinema as, you know, at home, I don't really watch a lot of horror movies. They scare me. And I don't mean to, you know, make any, if we have any fans of the show that think I'm into horror, I don't mean to alienate anyone. I certainly appreciate it. I actually am in a horror movie. I had a little part in 2 horror movies that a friend of mine, Greg Lamberson here in Buffalo, is a director and writer, and he's cast me. So I have to say, I certainly love making them.
Nice. Yeah, I was in a movie a year and a half ago. I hope it gets released soon because I just want to see myself on screen.
Yeah, that's always a lot of fun. I should say, though, you know, because I don't want to dismiss that I love George Romero, and I have for, you know, since the 70s, since I've learned of him. And Night of the Living Dead is definitely, you know, I know I'm among millions, but that to me is, you know, the quintessential Alien movie, of course. And I do have a huge appreciation for his work.
Yeah, when I was growing up, George Romero and John Carpenter were my 2 horror guys. Like,
oh, yes, and John Carpenter, too. Oh, now okay. You're jogging my memory here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those were my 2 guys growing up. Those are the guys, to me, who just did movies that had just great writing, and they made military men look really Neanderthal-like and very stupid. You know? But, yeah, I mean, I love, like, you know, their classic horror movies and sci-fi movies and stuff. But I also love the classics you guys show. I love, like, the Corman classics, like Bucket of Blood and Little Shop of Horrors and Last Man on Earth and stuff like that.
Well, you know, oftentimes, though, on the movies we show, because the content can be a little dodgy,
Yeah.
You know, what I love most, I think, about all of it in general is the people that made these films. You know, you've got to know that they spent part of their life putting this stuff together, which is not an easy feat. So it's by sheer will and passion and grit, I got to think that these movies were made, and if we're showing them, they did stand the test of time.
Mm-hmm.
And so kudos to them. I think there's a category for an award there.
Do you have a preference?
True, you know, spirit.
Yeah. Do you have a preference of the horror genre? Like, are you into, like, zombies and vampires, werewolves, that kind of stuff? I know you're not. I know they scare you and everything, but if you had, like, to choose.
I have to say I have an affinity for giants. I don't know why that is. Maybe not so much now, but when I was a kid, that the whole idea of becoming a giant fascinated me, and being able to stomp on towns and stuff.
Well, I have a growth syndrome, and so when I was 5 years old, I looked like I was 10. So I've always been a giant.
Oh, okay. So I would have adored you.
Yeah, I'm 6'3". You know. Yeah. So you like the creatures, right?
I kind of like psychological horror a little more than I like the actual alien. I don't know. This seems like now even more so. Aliens are huge. I was even watching, it's not an early movie, but some of what's the series now that's not Walking Dead. I started watching that for a while to see what that was all about, but it didn't stick with me to want to watch it forever.
Yeah.
As long as it's been on.
Yeah, I think it's overrated.
And I find of course, Twilight Zone to me has always been that's the kind of horror, if you will, that I've always enjoyed. It's a little more thrilling and more psychological.
Oh yeah, I mean, I know a horror host in the Bay Area who shows Twilight Zone episodes.
Yeah, that's. I would say that would be, if I had to pick a favorite or something that I still to this day gravitate to, it would be that.
Yeah, I love the Twilight Zone. What do you think of today's horror? I mean, I think it's too dark and serious. It's not fun like it used to be.
Yeah. Again, I don't mean to disappoint you and your listeners, but I don't watch enough to know. The horror movie that I'm in is actually quite fun because it's rather campy,
Mm-hmm.
and it's more geared for teens, the teen horror movie.
Right.
So that can be a lot of fun to watch. As far as some of these horror with I don't know, hands coming out of the darkness and grabbing people. I don't have much comment on that. It is too dark, and I don't watch them. But, however, I'll say Carrie, that was something that is a horror movie of sorts, and that was great.
Yeah, I love Carrie. I've been so lucky.
I don't think that's the kind of horror you mean, though.
No, but
there's so many different types. Yeah.
Well, I mean, the supernatural and the slashers mainly.
Yeah, the supernatural. What's the one? I can't pull it together right now. The title with Bruce Willis. The Sixth Sense, was it?
Yeah, The Sixth Sense.
I enjoyed that because that was a mystery, and that stuff like that seemed a little less obvious.
Yeah, Sixth Sense is pretty good. To me, that's the best M. Night Shyamalan movie he's done. I don't think he's done a really good movie since, I mean, Signs came pretty close, but that one was like a masterpiece. That was like a lightning in a bottle.
Yeah. And I don't know if when you ask me about horror, if that would include, the Stephen King movies, because I do enjoy those.
Oh, yeah.
Of course. But again, it doesn't fall in the supernatural. Well, yeah, I suppose it does. But, what comes to mind is oh, gee, now I can't even think of it. Going with Kathy Bates and
Misery.
James Caan. Misery, yeah. Those movies. There's so many out there.
I knew it right when you said Kathy Bates. I knew it was Misery.
Right.
The Shining was the very first horror movie I ever saw. I was like a year old. My parents just, oh my God, scared me with that movie. And guess what? I still have the tape. However, in 1987, we taped it over for Back to the Future. And if you rewind it, like just before the PG graphics on HBO, you could see Shelley Duvall talking to the doctor, and it's very spooky.
Oh, now which one are you talking about?
The Shining.
Oh, yeah, The Shining. Mm-hmm. In fact, I recently watched, a documentary on Stanley Kubrick, and I have to see The Shining again. Yeah. That, too, is a psychological horror of sorts.
It's still scary in some places, but mainly it's over the top and funny, though.
Yeah.
Did you
I didn't know what was funny about it.
Oh, I'll tell you what's hilarious. There's a scene, and most people don't remember this scene, except for the hardcore people who've seen it a million times. There's a scene where Shelley Duvall looks in a bedroom, and there's a guy laying on the bed, and it appears that he's getting a blowjob from a teddy bear.
Oh, that, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't find that funny. I was like, okay, that's...
I think it's weird. I don't know what the point of that is, but like my dad, who's seen it like the same amount of times I have, 100 times, he's never noticed it, and he blames the booze on that. Yeah.
Well, did you ever see apparently I heard the author of The Shining, Stephen King, was was not impressed with Kubrick.
No, and then he remade it for TV.
Yeah, and I saw pieces of that, and this is coming off the documentary, and I'm like, oh, no. Shining is definitely all Kubrick.
Yeah.
Anyway, so, but when I don't really go to the movie. I don't really buy that ticket though for horror movies, unless it's something like Get Out.
Oh, that was good.
That actually blew all my circuits.
Yeah, that's a good movie.
In a way that I didn't expect it to, because I really didn't know much about it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Yeah, I like that one. Let's talk about Offbeat Cinema. Now, I know that it started on WKBW in Buffalo in 1993, but you joined in later, right?
Yeah. Well, it started over 25 years ago.
Yeah.
And I joined like 23 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So by later, it was really they were into it they had been doing it for 2 years, maybe 2.5, something like that. But what happened was at the time I was attending bar,
mm-hmm.
and I was doing theater in town, and the guys used to come into the place I worked, and they said, our girl. They went through some different girls. They had Xena, I think was the first character's name. She had left the show. She wasn't there for long. And then there was my old friend and Lorraine O'Donnell, who was a character as well. Maybe she was Xena. But Lorraine is an actress and a radio personality, and she got a gig in Colorado, so she left the show to do that. And so they were empty of, they just wanted to have a female presence with the guys. So they asked me on board, and the rest is history.
I can imagine those guys hanging out at a bar in New York City.
Yeah, only this is Buffalo, New York, they hung out. And, martinis were flying. And it was a lot of fun to hang out with them when they used to come in. I enjoyed their company, because I started watching the show, and at the time, and we still do it, they featured some friends of mine, some jazz musicians, and that caught my eye, and so I knew a little bit about the show based on flipping channels one night, and I'm like, oh, hey, that's somebody I know playing, and ended up watching the shows to see who their guests might be too.
Yeah. Did they start off with a bang the night that you were first on? Like, do you remember the movie they showed?
I can't say I do. No. We're going 23 years ago. And I know you probably think, well, I'd remember it, but I don't remember it. I just remember, I remember me being on it, and that to me was different than theater. So I remember, the experience of being on a television set more than I remember actually what we were showing or talking about.
Mm-hmm. Here's a poignant little story about how I discovered the show. In the summer of 2001, I graduated high school, and I had to take care of my grandmother for 9 months before she died. And I had to watch her a lot, and like late at night on the weekends, like I would tune into you guys, because that was like the most joy I got during that period.
Oh.
Yeah. You guys would show all the movies I loved. I'd see Carnival of Souls on there, and Little Shop of Horrors and stuff like that. It was on at the time. It was on Coffee 20 in the Bay Area, and you guys were only on for a short time on that channel. And after your contract or whatever stopped with them, I didn't see you guys again until 2 years ago when I got Me TV up here.
Oh, okay. And so, when did you say? How long ago was it when you were looking after your grandmother?
2001.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So, well, thank you for enjoying the show and watching it. You know, we love to hear from people and get responses, and and even take some suggestions often. Are there any movies that you love in particular that we show?
Oh yeah, like the ones I just mentioned, like Carnival of Souls and Little Shop of Horrors and Bucket of Blood and stuff like that. I love.
Those are all. Yeah, those are all faves. They're actually quite popular. Are there any really out there offbeat movies that you've discovered on the show?
I'm trying to think. If they did, I don't remember because it's been so long. Oh yeah, one movie you guys showed. I had no idea it was in the public domain until I saw it on your show. Was Meet John Doe.
Oh yeah, that's a classic.
Yeah, because I couldn't believe that was in the public domain because it's a Warner Brothers movie and it's Frank Capra and Gary Cooper. I just could not believe that. I was like, how did that movie lapse into the public domain,
Well, yeah, and it turns out Night of the Living Dead is, lucky for us, is public domain, so we get to show that every year. That usually kicks off. That's our milestone when Austin Cinema first started with Night of the Living Dead. So we show it every year, and it's a big party because it's around our anniversary.
Yeah, I interviewed John Russo last summer, who co-wrote and co-produced the movie. Oh my God, he is so bitter that the movie is in the public domain because, he'd be getting paid for it.
Oh, gracious. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then you wonder, too, would it be so ubiquitous if it, weren't in the public domain? Who knows? But it is definitely a well-done classic, for sure, given the whole history and backdrop on how it was made.
Yeah. I like the way you guys look now on MeTV. I mean, as much as I love the old Coffee 20 show, what I liked about the old Coffee 20 show is that it had this intimate, like, cable access feel to it, but you guys now look a little bit more, upscale and global, which is great, Oh,
and you're probably talking about our new set?
Yeah, the new set, new camera work, all that stuff.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Well, this show, through the huge Herculean efforts of John DeShulo, who is our producer, and as well as, one of the executives at WBBZ TV. Mm-hmm. He's been involved in the show from day one with James Gillen, who you probably know that background and the guys behind the scenes too. And This show has been on the air come rain or shine, and we have been and it evolved too from when it was at WKBW to 3 cameras and the crew, and it was syndicated. And then as television changed, so did the show just kept on airing. Mm-hmm. And with all the sometimes obstacles of airing it, we're doing it in my house, for example, for a short period until we landed on the set now that is, I imagine, our permanent home. Mm-hmm. And if we're on another 25 years.
Yeah, like, do you know how much longer you guys are going to continue for?
I don't know, so we can remember anything. We've been doing it a while now.
Yeah.
And there's no end in sight.
Mm-hmm. Do you ever get tired of?
Maybe people will change. Maybe the cast is, as long as John DeShulo and our crew is. As long as we're kicking and healthy and ready to do it, we'll be doing it. And I often think maybe some
Do you ever get tired of doing it though?
Oh no.
That's good.
No, this is my family. I love seeing the guys, and it's not a heavy lift, as you could probably tell by watching it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's loose. Can we get together? Yes, we can do it. Scheduling might be the biggest lift for the people that have to pull that together. But we show up, we knock off 2 movies, and we enjoy what we're doing. We love talking about the movies. We love finding some little gags around the movies when we present them.
Mm-hmm. Has doing a show on a network like MeTV has it enabled you guys to show movies that are not in the public domain?
No, not that. No, and that might be a question that could be further elaborated on by the people that actually procure the movies.
Mm-hmm.
But right now, there were times we did show years ago. I remember showing a Spike Lee movie, and because of the language, though, it was dubbed, and it was all Mickey Finn this, Mickey Finn that. So yeah, how that end actually truly comes to being is it's all public domain right now, and I don't know if there were any special. We don't buy anything. Again, that's a question for the executives that pull the show together, because I don't know. I just show up. I'm the talent. I just try to make sure my hair isn't that messy, which it is oftentimes.
Yeah, and make sure you're barefoot too.
Well, I was doing that because I was in my house, and I was like, "Where do I need shoes for?" We're in, But
yeah.
now we're in a coffee house, so I'm a little more respectable.
Because you're in black and white, what color are your toenails painted on the show?
Various colors, various blues and purples and reds. Depends on the season. But I have to say that I am now into the movies. When we first used to do it, it wasn't as easy for me to access the movies before doing the show,
Yeah.
Because again, 25 years ago, you just couldn't go on YouTube.
Yeah.
And check out a lot of this stuff. So I feel like as the show has grown, personally too, I've grown with it in ways that I appreciate it and truly love doing it. And of course, Tony Villani and Jeffrey Roberts and David Kane, the music that you hear by him, we're all friends.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just remembered another movie you used to show on Coffee 20 back in the day that I loved. I think it's French Canadian. It's a cartoon movie called Fantastic Planet.
Oh yes, we show that. Now, when you say Coffee 20, what's that? You mean Off the Cinema?
Yeah, Coffee 20 was the name of the UHF station in the Bay Area that I used to watch it on.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to be filming my own horror show pilot this year.
Oh, wonderful. In the Bay Area?
Yeah, actually. I live up in Redding right now, which is like 3 hours away, but I'm going to go down to the Bay Area, meet up with friends, and we're going to film a pilot and stuff, and we're going to put it on the internet, see if anybody responds. And if they do, we'll continue making more. It's going to be very edgy and irreverent because I'm a comedian, and so I want to put my style of humor to the show and do it for adults,
Yeah. Well, that's great. When it gets done, keep us posted on the progress of it.
I sure will. You guys won't be able to show it because it's going to be adult oriented, but you guys will sure know about it.
Well, and that's another thing about our show, which I appreciate very much, is because we are wholesome. And, in town here, often I'll meet people that'll tell me that they grew up on the show, which makes me feel But that's something you don't think about while you're doing it. You're like, wow, they watched us when they were kids, and we're remembered that way. So it's like me remembering, Barry Lillis or Vampira or Elvira or somebody. So it's fun.
As weird as it feels, though, it's also got to feel. It's got to be a beautiful feeling.
It's nice. It is. It is nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Why did Maxwell leave?
Oh, he just went on to better, and he had other interests.
Yeah, because to me, when I was watching him back in the day, yeah, I mean, he was like the cornerstone of the show. I thought,
Well, he did. Well, it wasn't devised to be a star per se. It was a group of people in a coffee house talking about movies, and it kind of evolved that way for a while. But then it, now we like to try to keep it as we don't. The character are the three of us, and that's the way we present it.
Yeah. Do you guys make appearances at horror conventions and stuff?
Oh yeah. We have a Comic-Con that we do here in Buffalo, which is it's grown in leaps and bounds in the 4 or 5 years that it's been done at the convention center here, and maybe it's been done maybe it has even more history, but not in such a big venue. And we love doing that, and we get to interview stars and talk to people that, are very much into horror as much as you are. And it's a whole Comic-Con scene, which is a lot of fun, too, to meet these characters and talk to people that know us and do watch the shows and do dig us.
Yeah, I've been going to horror cons the last 3 years at that, because I didn't know much about them. Growing up, there was only Fangoria's Weekend of Horrors. They used to travel around the country and do it. There wasn't a con every weekend like there is now, and I'm hooked on them now.
Oh yeah, I bet you would be. Now, so is there a difference between horror con and Comic Con?
There is.
We've been going to Comic Cons, and I was thinking that might be the same thing. No.
Okay. I mean, you pretty much see everything. You see the same stuff that you see at a horror con, that you see at a sci-fi con or a Comic Con, except the only difference is, you'll see, comic book stuff at the Comic Con, you'll see horror stuff at the horror con, but it's like, you see the vendors, the cosplay, the celebrities signing autographs, the panels, all that stuff at both. But
yeah.
I prefer going to horror cons the most, because everyone there is just a community, and everyone is accepted, and everything's cool. But then when you go to a Comic Con and you see all these intelligent brainiacs and stuff, I don't know, it's got a totally different vibe, especially when you meet the celebrities. The celebrities at Comic Cons, I don't know, are a little bit more stuffy, and they look like they don't want to be there and stuff. But at horror cons, they all love being there. They all want to meet the fans and sign the autographs. It's a weird thing that way.
Well, now I don't know about that completely about Comic-Con stars, because I haven't been to a horror con to know the difference, I guess. I've been to the Comic-Con, and I was the one in Niagara Falls, and I got to meet Dawn Wells, who is Marianne from Gilligan's Island.
Yeah.
And she was wonderful, and she was loving every minute of being there. And as well as Kim Coates, he's a big Canadian star. And he, too, in his stars, jettisoned. He's a stage actor, and he's now has a series out that's doing quite well, called Bad Blood in Canada. And it's on Netflix now, too. So he's now a household name, or becoming one. But he too, he loves those things, and he loves to be there and do it. And when we did one in Buffalo, New York, a Comic Con, I met Eric Roberts, who also, he was wonderful. He was a little reserved at first when I met him, but then he just took over and was, it was the highlight of my whole off-beat cinema. I just loved meeting him, because I appreciate
want to meet his wife because she had the funniest line in Animal House.
What was that? What was the line?
Okay, it's the scene where they go to that black bar.
Uh-huh.
And she's Tom Hulce's date, and he says to her, "What are you majoring in?" And she says, "Primitive cultures."
Oh, okay. I didn't know that was his wife. So you really are up on all the details.
I'm a movie aficionado, yes.
You are totally all that. Yes.
And when I tell you about the difference between the Comic-Con and the HorrorCon, I don't mean to come off as negative. I'm just telling you my experiences here in California,
No.
I would love to go to another state and check out their cons and stuff because I'm sure they're a little different. But from my experiences here, that's how I see it,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, and they all have their own vibe, of course. And we've traveled, we've done a little traveling outside of our area to go to Comic-Cons, and if it's a small town, it's a way different vibe. And sometimes there are things that there'll just be vendors there selling whatever, not necessarily Comic-Con related items.
Yeah. I get a little bored, though, when I go to a con that's in a like a recreational park or a moose lodge or some, like a school gym or something because, it's not that big or anything. And, I mean, everyone is, got a certain kind of, upbeat energy and spirit and everything, which is good. But I get bored really fast at those ones. So I try to go to the ones that are being held in convention centers or hotels,
Yeah. Well, I could see where you would, Some of them, to me, just strike me as some of those smaller ones, like you said, if they're in a gymnasium, they're community get-togethers, which is in the spirit of just hanging out and talking about the things you all enjoy.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, do you guys have an episode this week with a really fun movie?
We do. Did you see the Bruce Lee one? The real Bruce Lee?
I think so.
I'm trying to think if that one aired or if because we also have a great one coming, Glenn or Glenda. That's another one that we should like to show from time to time. That's an Ed Wood.
Yeah.
And we had a lot of fun taping that one. That one's upcoming. I believe this Saturday we've had we have the Cab Calloway.
Cab Calloway?
Yeah. What's it, Heidi Ho?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's not all horror. I don't know if you've seen that one, but that's a wonderful old classic music. But actually, we showed that one. We actually aired that one.
I should see it.
I'm trying to think what comes, because what we do is we'll tape in advance a couple shows, and then they'll show up next, in a month or two or whenever. However, that we can figure.
Would it be
schedules related how we can get people together and then the studio gets the time to piece it together. So it's oftentimes we'll do a show, but it may not air for another month.
Yeah.
Or it'll be the next week, depending on crunch.
Have you guys ever showed Reefer Madness?
Oh yeah. We have. Gotta have that one. It's a classic. That's fun. That's always fun to do too. And we try to when we engage guests, we try to set them up with the movies we think they'll work with too. Oftentimes.
Mm-hmm. How about the Sagebrush Trail?
I don't know that one.
It's a B. John Wayne movie from 1933 when he was super young and just getting to be known. He was a B movie actor until he did Stagecoach in 1939.
Yeah, do you think is that public domain?
Yeah.
Oh, we should look it up because we would show that. I mean, we don't only show, like I said, we show the good, the bad, the foreign, and the public domain. And we do vet them, and that might be something that would be an interest in showing if it relates to the theme and the stuff we show.
Yeah, it's a public domain western. It's a departure, but it's offbeat because it's John Wayne in a B movie.
Well, I think you just said it there. Offbeat is the ticket. However, I don't think we've ever shown any westerns, so that may be too offbeat. I'm not sure. And that would be something for our guys to decide.
Well, I'm happy that
occasionally I'll find something that I'll really push to air. We found a public domain movie that was Cicely Tyson's debut, and it turned out it was filled with stars, and it was very old.
Huh.
I'm trying to think what the title of that one was, because it was, and I found it on Facebook. A journalist friend of mine had posted it, and he couldn't believe that it was so forgotten. The movie of it is called Carrot Gold, and Ethel Waters was the big star in it, and it featured Jeffrey Holder, and that wasn't a horror movie. That was kind of an adventure movie, and it was just such a gem to show because it was a well-made B movie. Although again, it was very old and it didn't have a huge budget, but it had a nice story to it, and I think that was that was done in the 50s. Anyway, so again, did that suit our offbeat cinema? Sure, it's the good, the bad, and the foreign. It was good. and it wasn't necessarily offbeat. It was, a story that it had some element. It didn't have any elements of supernatural or horror or it wasn't zany in any way. But we showed it.
I
digress. I was just trying to think of why we would show a Western.
Well, Cicely Tyson, she has a horror connection. That movie she did in the 70s where she played, oh God, who did she play? She played Harriet Tubman or something on TV, and she won an Emmy for it. Well, her makeup was done by Rick Baker.
Oh, yes. I can imagine a lot of, yeah. Makeup artists that excel in horror could easily do old age makeup.
Yeah. Oh, he did Eddie Murphy's makeup in Coming to America and The Nutty Professor and all those movies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean he's a 7-time Academy Award winner. That guy.
Now, who is that you're talking? Oh, the guy that does makeup. Yeah.
Rick Baker. Yeah. He did Michael Jackson's Thriller. He did Star Wars stuff too, and The Exorcist. He was the apprentice on The Exorcist. He helped Dick Smith, his idol, do Linda Blair's makeup.
And what did you say his name was again?
Rick Baker.
And so is he still in action, or?
No, he retired a couple of years ago. He sold his studio in L.A. and he actually got honored at a horror convention that I go to every year. And unfortunately, I didn't get to go last year when he was honored. But yeah, I mean, he's adored by the entire horror industry.
Oh, I'm sure. And oftentimes that's what I like about these Comic-Cons too, or horror cons. These people that have retired come on out and meet their fans and discover that they have so many of them, and it's a big thrill for people like yourself and people like us who like to feature. I mean, he would be the most coveted guest to interview, a guy like that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, Constance, I appreciate you coming on finally today, and
well, I hope I was helpful on filling in some details about our show.
Oh no, you were great. Don't sell yourself short. You were great today.
All right. Thank you for having us, Tommy. And is there anything we should mention that I'm not thinking of? No.
You kind of already mentioned what movie you're showing this week.
Oh yes. Okay.
But
and you know what? I just want to plug
Awesome, awesome. Well, if by a miracle I make it to New York, I hope I see you around at a convention or something.
It would be great to meet you, Tommy.
Yes, and I'll let you know the status of my show when I make it. It's probably going to be in the spring or something.
Great. Yeah. Keep in touch.
Yes. Well, have a great day.
You too, dear.
Okay.
Good fun. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Well, there you have it. Constance Caldwell. Ain't she a sweetheart? Thank you so much, Constance. I will continue watching Offbeat Cinema because it is awesome, and I'm glad you guys are still going after 25 years. And you beatniks rock my world. If you like this video, everyone, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, add me as a friend on Facebook, join my Tommy Kovac comedian page on Facebook, follow me on Twitter and Instagram, and all that fun stuff. Well, that's all the time we have this week on Splat from the Past. Until next time, this is Tommy Throwback Kovac saying, there's no shame in living in the past, because the present sucks. Later, dudes!